For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love. Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work. Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
There was glitch, everyone. What is going on? Mercury is in retrograde, but I am busy reading The Charisma Factor. So regardless of what's going on out there, I don't know why everything is slowing down here. Hopefully I am still moving along, but I am very excited about our very special guest today because I have the one and only Leesa Rowland on here. We are going to be talking about charisma today. I don't know what happened with the glitch of our opening today, but Leesa, you're here.
Hi, Richard. It's great to see you. I'm very excited to be here.
This has been a long time in the making. You were scheduled to be here last month, and because you're so busy, you weren't able to be here. Leesa, I begin every show by asking my guest, who or what are you celebrating today?
Well, I'm celebrating being alive. I am an animal rights activist. I'm an author, an actress, and I'm just really thankful for everything that I have in my life.
Well, thank you for doing all those things, because I mean, all those things that you are doing and all those things that you're part of are things that I wholeheartedly believe in. I have to say that when I sat down to begin to read your book, and as I told you before we went live, and I want to do a shout out, first of all, to Nora Lawler, your publicist.
Oh, she's lovely.
I reached out to Nora to get a copy of your book, and she didn't have a copy. So I reached out to Amazon, and they told me that if I ordered the book, that it would probably arrive sometime this evening. So I found other ways of getting it. And there's this thing called Amazon Locker, which I wasn't even aware of.
I haven't heard of it.
And it arrived in another town. And I went on Sunday and I got the book.
Aww.
And I was able to put it down.
Aww.
And
well, thank you. I'm so glad you have it.
I am so thrilled. There is more in your preface and in your introduction to your book than most people have in full volumes of books.
It's pungent.
Absolutely. I want to talk, before we get to the subject of charisma, I want to talk a little bit about the trajectory of your life, because one of the things that you say in your book, there are so many things about you that I absolutely gravitated towards. I'm a very spiritual person, and all of the areas that you have gravitated towards and are part of are also the things that I have delved into and studied and worked towards, and spirit guides and all of that.
Oh,
where did that all begin for you?
I've been very interested in spirituality and ascended masters and the whole bit since I've been I would say like 10 or 12. So pretty much my whole life.
But do you know exactly what was the impetus and where that began for you?
You know, I'm adopted. I'm an adopted child. And I think that in itself made me a little more spiritual and a little more thankful for my life than most people are. Most people take things more for granted, but when you're adopted, you know how thankful you are, and you know, I think that I developed a strong spirituality back then, and it's just growing and growing and growing. And I've studied ascended masters for years, and I had a big spiritual awakening actually about 5 years ago. It was amazing. I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening and light body activation. I actually, my partner and I had just had dinner downstairs in the Hamptons at our house overlooking the water. And he went back into the den to watch sports. And I went upstairs to say my prayers and to meditate. And I had gone upstairs and opened up the door. I thanked God for the beautiful day. And I sat down. I said a prayer, not even a long one. And then I was going to go into meditation. And I was walked in by a force, which is the Holy Spirit, walked in by a force into my mirrored bathroom. And I felt like I was being held up by a cord. And I just started lighting up. I did not see myself in the mirror. I saw my light body. I didn't know what was happening, but and it lasted for like 2 hours. It was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening and light body activation. I saw my Merkaba. We are beautiful beings of light, and we don't even know how powerful we are. But I mean, I had no idea what was happening to me. The very next day, I said to several of my friends, I said, have you ever just lit up like a firecracker before? And everybody's like, no. So,
well, even in your book, I mean, you talk about being at a meeting, the book was written some time ago, but you mentioned being at a meeting and someone saying to you, "You're on fire." So it's in your book. So I guess that's a force that is the word force again that lives within you, and that's a part of charisma as well.
True.
But I want to go back. I mean, if you don't mind my going back to you're talking about adoption, because Kristen Chenoweth, who is also one of my favorite entertainers, was also
great.
She was also.
I did
don't
not know
if you knew that as well. At what point did you know that you were adopted? And I bring this up for a reason, if you don't mind me going there, because in your book you talk about. And I don't want to give away too much because I want everyone to buy the book. But you do tell this amazing story about this connection at Christmas time with your biological cousins and what happened, which was an amazing story.
Yeah, that was
what you wish for.
Yeah, well, no, I really wanted to meet them. They had reached out to me, and I thought that they really just wanted to get to know me. I thought these are my biological relatives, and I felt blessed that they were reaching out to me, and I trusted them. And I still don't even know if they're really my biological cousins or not.
That was my next question.
I mean, or anything.
Do you really know if they truly are your biological cousins?
I don't know. I'll never know that because I probably will never see these people again. But it was devastating. That was one of the most devastating times in my life, because you have so much built up inside of you and you want to know where you came from. I am so appreciative of my adoptive family, and even more so after I met who I think are my some of them biological relatives. But then, I guess I also was a target, so you don't really know.
As I was reading this, I have a whole scenario going on in my head. I'm an actor, and so I can see it's like a movie plays in my head as I'm reading this. And I was curious as to what your parents' reaction was to this. When I know also you had a horrendous experience with your mother, and going through that. All of these things that happened along the way, this path on your, do you believe, Lisa, with your spiritual path that you're on, that any of these things that were happening along the way were preordained situations that were going to happen in your life?
It's funny you say that, because I do believe in preordained circumstances. I actually believe that we make soul contracts with other souls before we incarnate here on Earth, and we have to keep up with those soul contracts. And it has a lot to do with karma, and you have karmic relationships too. and you have soulmate relationships, but the karmic relationships, you have them because they're there for you to learn from, and you did preordain most of them, and so that you would learn certain lessons with these various people.
Well, this is your second book, and the first book that you wrote, I mean, were you already on this path knowing about writing about charisma and all of and your spirituality
Yes.
As those episodes were happening with your cousins, and I'm putting quote cousins in quote air quotes.
Yeah,
uh,
right.
um, were you, as that was unfolding, were you thinking in the back of your mind that there was some quote unquote cosmic or spiritual lesson that you
Yeah,
were to learn from this?
absolutely. When things hit me like that, I'm constantly like, okay, why did I choose this to happen to me? Why did I choose this? Why is this happening? And what am I supposed to be learning from it? And it did toughen me up.
Mhm.
I don't blindly trust anybody, even if they say they're my family. It's not something I can do anymore. But I didn't let it make me bitter. And that's very important because a lot of times bad things happen to you and you have this attitude like, why me? Why is this happening? I can't believe it's happening. Rather than thinking, this is happening for a reason. I'm supposed to learn something from it. And um, it, you have to change your mindset, and you can't let something make you bitter.
Absolutely. And as the fact that you're on, I call it a spiritual path, and
Yes,
you're constantly
as you are
learning.
too. Obviously,
Yes,
that's great.
obviously. And as you're constantly learning, to me, it feels almost like a blessing and a curse almost, because I feel that also um, you're always aware as it's unfolding. Perhaps this is how I should be responding to this.
Right.
But you're also human, and you're in this human body reacting to this. And of course, we are going to respond to the outside circumstances of what's happening to us.
Hmm.
And you move on as this is all unfolding. Are you thinking this is going to go in a book someday?
Well, I knew that. Yeah, well, you're thinking I'm going to use this down the line for sure, and I'm whatever I learn from it, I am going to share it with others because I love to share with others, and I think we have an obligation to do that. It's part of connecting with people, and yeah, it's definitely, um, definitely. I felt everything was happening for a reason. Absolutely.
Now, with everything else going on, what was the point in your life when you decided that you were going to go down the path as an actress?
Um,
I know
when I
that
was
your
in
father was an artist.
My mother was an artist and my father was a
Uh,
college
that's
professor.
right. Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
And I was in junior high. I always auditioned and got the parts I wanted, and I did community theater when I was in high school, and I grew up in Austin, Texas, which is full of the arts,
Yes.
and we have great theater there too, and so I had a good backbone there to work off of. And
So, oh, no, keep going. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
So there comes a point in a performer's and entertainer's life where
Mhm.
there are two paths, New York or LA, and
Right.
you chose to go to LA. What was it, film and television that was pulling you? Um, and I mean, you studied with the Stella Adler Studios.
Hmm.
What, I mean, do you feel that you were called in that direction? Because each studio has their own method in terms of what they
Hmm.
teach.
True.
What did you pull from, I mean, what did you glean or learn from studying with the Stella Adler Studio? And do you feel that that was the exact place that you needed to go
I
in
think it
terms?
was. I learned a lot there. I think it was, and I learned a lot that I took a lot of classes in Austin, but and I had met and made contacts with quite a few people in California in the business, and started getting, you know, getting work. And when I studied at Stella Adler, I leaps and bounds over the others. But it was method acting too, which I wasn't taught in Austin.
Mm-hmm. Was it an easy transition for you to go from Austin to LA?
It was, and it was perfect because so I went from Austin to Los Angeles, and now I'm in New York.
Great. And as the work
So
started
it's kind
happening,
of a natural evolution.
absolutely, of course. And have you done a lot of stage work as well, or are you pretty much staying in the realm of film and television?
Well, I liked doing stage work, and I did a lot of that in Texas. I loved that, and but in Los Angeles, there's more work, and you make more money doing. I started doing a lot of commercials and then acting parts, and so it just naturally evolved, and I just kept getting work, so I stayed there. And if something's working, don't change it.
Now, you're also an amazing writer. So when did the writing begin for you?
Well, I studied journalism in college. I went to Texas Tech. I studied journalism and fashion design and also theater. But so I started as I worked in the school paper. I was the features editor and the copy editor, and I loved writing. And journalism it's nonfiction usually, and so I enjoyed that. And so what I write now is nonfiction and a bit more spiritual.
Well, your first book that came out was
Mhm.
the when that book came out, which, by the way, I went on Amazon and it's like $79 to get
Oh
this
no,
one.
it's discontinued that one.
It's
I
discontinued
discontinued
completely.
that when, yeah, we discontinued that one when before the Charisma Factor came out.
Okay, so I can't get it anywhere, so it's impossible.
Right, right.
I tried, because this book is so
No, it'll be
incredible. I wanted the
reprinted.
other one.
It's going to be reprinted like in a year or so.
Oh, good. Then you'll come
It's
back and
going
we'll talk
into a
about it.
new print.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
let's talk about charisma. When did
Yes.
you start thinking about the charisma factor? And there are so many things that I want to, cover with this. Obviously, you have charisma, and as you say in the book, everybody has charisma.
Yes.
You
Everybody
believe
does.
that people were born with charisma, and they're different. And you also believe that charisma is something that can be taught.
Absolutely.
With all due respect, I want to say that Stella Adler herself, she was very tough as a teacher, and
Right.
she would actually ask certain people to leave her class, saying that they did not have what she called the it factor.
Yeah. No, she was very a strong woman. She was very strong, and but she was very effective.
Mhm.
I remember um, when I first got into her class, she she um, she had me and this other person go pretend like we were elephants in the side of the room, and I'm like, okay, all right. But she has her ways, and she and there's a reason. And no, she was a very great force in me learning more acting ability.
So, what is it about charisma that you decided to write an entire book about it?
I just think it's so important, and it's an underrated quality. And you're taught so many skills in college, and in high school, you're
Mm-hmm.
taught so many skills, you're taught so much knowledge, and you learn so many things, but you don't learn how to put it all together. And that's when charisma comes in. We're
But do
not
you,
taught charisma the way that we should be taught. I think it should be a class in school.
I agree with you on that. But why do you I mean, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about charisma? And I think I may know the answer to that.
They think that other people have it, famous people, actors that they look at, musicians. They think that they all have charisma and that they don't themselves. And your belief is what's so important. You've got to believe that you're charismatic. You've got to believe that you're viable. You've got to believe that you can make a difference in the world. And as long as you have that, then you're going to do what you love, and your charisma is just going to shine through. But you've
No,
got to believe in yourself.
you mentioned earlier that you didn't really start on your path to be an actress until you were a teenager. Am I correct?
Right.
So what was it that pulled you in that direction? I mean, there are a myriad of reasons why people want to go into this business. Some want to go in it for the fame. Some want to go for the acting. Some for all of the above. What was it that was pulling you in that direction? And at the time, were there certain artists that you looked at that you thought were very charismatic that you wanted to emulate in terms of your career path?
Well, I think there are a lot of different artists that I admire, and a lot of people from the golden age,
Hmm.
the screen. And there's a lot of different ones. I mean, if you look at like Carol Lombard, she was wonderful, and she had a lot of charisma, and she had humor and warmth, and it made her likable, and she was funny, and she was great. There are a lot of different actors that I like for different reasons.
Hmm.
And
And do you feel that the career? I mean, that aspect of what you have learned about charisma.
Mhm.
Um, well, writing the book. Let me go there. Writing this book, do you feel that there are things about charisma that you've learned that you feel that you did not know prior to writing the book?
Yeah, yeah, I have learned a, a lot more about it, because you dwell more into it. And, there's a lot of different aspects and a lot of different types of charisma. And I was just saying to someone the other day, because we were talking about the King Charles's coronation, that's going to
Oh,
take
by the
place
way,
May 6th.
did your invitation come yet?
It hasn't come.
I
Has yours?
keep looking in the mail, and if they're watching,
I don't know. But, I was saying the other day, you've got, look at the charisma from the royal family. You have different types of charisma there. And you look at Kate, you look at Duchess, and you look at her charisma and how she, her warmth and her eye contact, in all the different occasions, and even her clothes, everything is made for that very moment. And if you look at charisma, if you look at a person who's got a lot of charisma, they're living in that moment. They're
Mhm.
living in the moment. And that's one of the keys to having charisma, is to like really be present in the moment. That's where you get presence.
I want to pull up a comment here
Uh-huh.
from a friend of mine who's watching,
Hmm.
and kindness makes a person charismatic. And you actually mentioned
True.
that in the book.
Very
Get the
true.
book, Kathleen, because that's one of the things that you pull out in
Uh-huh.
the book.
Very true.
Um, and have you ever been in a situation, and I know we all have, but I'd like you to talk about a specific situation, being in the business and the profession that you're in
Hmm.
which someone walks into a room, and the
Hmm.
moment they walk into the room, every head turns, and you go, "Oh my God, that person, is like the most charismatic person I've ever been in their presence." They ooze
Right.
it, it comes through every core. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who does red carpet interviews, and she said being in the presence of George Clooney, uh, and she interviews everybody, she got tongue-tied when she was in his presence because she says he just has, and I compare him to Cary Grant. They both had that same type of charismatic quality, and it's just the air that they both have. And if you look, and it's very funny, at his early career on The Facts of Life and Roseanne, I don't think you would have thought that he would have had the career that he ended up having. And I think that's because of an inner light that was burning within him, talking about that fire earlier that you talked about.
Yeah, George Clooney has a lot of charisma. He's got a lot of confidence. When he enters the room, he walks in with a lot of confidence. And he has humor. Humor is one of his best qualities. And he's got a self-effacing, he can laugh at himself. And that's very important. And he shows humility, which bonds him with people that look up to him. And, he shows warmth and empathy. So no, he's a very, very charismatic actor.
Well, I was asking earlier if there was anything that you learned, that you didn't think you knew, because I think you always knew it, before you wrote the book. But with yourself, was there ever a moment where you felt that you didn't have the charisma?
We all have those moments, but that's when your self-talk and your mindset comes in and is really important. And whether it's just going back into your room and saying 10 different affirmations, if you just for 10 minutes sit there and say different affirmations, you're going to come out feeling better. You're going to vibrate higher. Everything's from vibration. We're all, you vibrate and you attract what you vibrate to.
And I'm going to ask a dumb question because I think I know the answer to this too, but I'm sure you practice affirmations.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do.
And Cheryl Lee Ralph, another favorite of mine, and she says every morning she gets up in the mirror, she looks in the mirror and she says, "You are a star, Cheryl Lee Ralph." And she says, "That's not me being arrogant, it's me being honest." And I love that.
Absolutely.
And she said that, she's gotten more auditions from walking in saying that before she walks into the room than anything else. And
she's creating her charisma, her energy around her. That's great.
And the flip side of that, of course, is the imposter syndrome. And that is something that, we're reading more and more and hearing more and more about that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. A lot of people that are very successful have the imposter syndrome. It's when, where you get to a level and you get to this great level that your expertise has taken you to, but you don't have the belief in yourself. And you're like, well, I don't think I deserve this or whatnot. But that's where affirmations come in. Self-talk comes in. But a lot of people are like that. And a lot of people that are super intelligent don't exhibit warmth. So it keeps them from looking charismatic.
Have you ever experienced the imposter syndrome? And if so, what got you through it?
I did have that for a while when I was acting, when you did the press junkets, because they would ask you all this stuff that, honestly, I felt like so narcissistic sitting there talking about myself on the questions they would ask me at these junkets, that you're like, why do they want to know this? And you're like, yeah, that took a lot of self-talk and a lot of inner work to be able to be comfortable talking about such what seemed like little silly things. Why would somebody be interested in that? But they are, and you just have to be confident in yourself. And that's when your mindset comes in. And you can change your mindset every single morning. You can wake up and have a horrible night and be depressed, but you can, for 10 minutes, say your affirmations, build yourself up, and then have a great day.
I want to talk a little bit about your process with the book.
Okay.
First of all, what was the impetus that you decided I'm going to put this into a book? I know that you had written the other book, but specifically about this, that you're going to write this specific book.
Well, I discussed that with the publisher, and we decided to make this book more textbook, more without the spirituality that the other one had. So that
Well, can we go there for a minute? I mean,
Mhm.
were they a little turned off by the spirituality, or did they
Well,
feel
no, they liked that, but this one
okay?
they wanted separate, a little bit separate, a little more textbook to how to just create charisma,
Mhm.
and not so much about chakras and things like that.
Because I think
I love to
I
talk
like
about
it all
chakras.
together. I really
Yeah,
do.
me too.
And that's why I was looking for the other book.
Yeah.
So you decided to go into a more textbook realm with this.
hmm
And I'm always interested, the first words that we read in the book,
hmm
are they the first words that you wrote?
Pretty much, yes. Yes. The in between, though, I changed it probably 3 or 4 times
Mhm.
before I got it to where I wanted it. But yeah, I would say pretty much the beginning is still the same beginning, and you know, I like to write every night, anyways. It's a habit,
Mhm.
and so I write. And lately, I've just been writing everything all spiritual and about ascension, and so I'm basically working on another book, but it's more just about spirituality and about ascension and vibration and raising your vibration, things like
That's
that.
great.
Yeah.
So as you're writing, is it more of a solitary process for you, or do you share your writing with other people as you're moving along with your book?
No, I usually it's more solitary because I just write every night, and
Mhm.
and and then I just keep working it, and and sometimes when I'm putting the book together with the chapters, I'll like I'll like lay out pages, and try to see if I can put it in, make another chapter into something or whatnot. But um, no, it's a lot of solitary work for sure.
And who decided that it was ready for us, the consumer, to have it? Was it your decision? Was it the editor? Was it the publisher? When was that decision made?
Well, I got it to a point where I was happy with it, and at that point, then I gave it to the um, an editor there through my publisher, and we went from there. And I worked with that editor, and then they decided that it was the right time to put it out.
And how has your life changed since the book came out?
Well, it's I've met a lot of people. It's so great. So many people. It's something that people are interested in, and it's great to help other people become the best they can be. I hear from people all the time on social media, etc., and they reach out and they ask questions, and it's really nice to meet people from all different walks of life, and how they use charisma in their own lives, and you can be a stay-at-home mom and you can have wild, wonderful charisma. It doesn't just it's not just for
Well, trust me, if you're a mom
people in
with
show
kids at home,
business.
you've got charisma. You have to have charisma if you've got kids at home. But is there a
Absolutely.
common, and by the way, anyone who's watching, if you've got questions that you want to ask, put them in the comment section, and I will try to get to as many questions as possible. But is there a common thread that runs with a lot of the questions that are asked of you? Hopefully, a lot of, when people do reach out to you, they've read the book. But if they haven't read the book, what do you feel is the most common question that people ask you about charisma?
It's very common that people actually don't think that they have it. It's common. A lot of people don't think they have charisma, and it's interesting. And a lot of times when people write me, I can just see that they don't have a lot of self-worth inside of themselves. And um, but those are the people that they're great with the book. They're the people that learn the most from it. And you know, so much comes from your own inner confidence. And I just notice that a lot of people don't have that. And I know that um, through the COVID thing and having to wear the mask, a lot of people kind of got out of like mingling with other people, and they don't have banter with other people. And, when you do finally connect and take the mask off, then you can see smiles and people connect differently, and it's beautiful. But a lot of people were having difficulties, during COVID.
Well, I had asked Nora, and unfortunately, you're a publicist. I didn't get it, from you. But I had asked for a photograph of you at 5 years of age, and the reason I had asked for a photograph of you at 5 years of age, to me, 5 years old is the purest self. It's
Mm-hmm.
before life begins to tell you who you are and
Mm-hmm.
aren't. And right now, in this, and regardless of what side you're on, Republican, Democrat, whatever side you're on, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
People are telling people who they are and who they're not, and everything, and it's very confusing for kids right now. Uh,
Yeah.
and I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a kid in the school system in today's world, with what they are dealing with on a daily basis. So I thank God daily that I grew up at the time that I grew up. I know I sound like an old man, but I thank God daily that I went through the time that I went through. I want to ask, when you were 5 years old, um, and it sounds to me, I mean, you were adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents brought you into a nurturing home.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that you did they instill within you and the people that were around you a feeling of self worth? And do you think that contributed heavily to your sense of feeling that you had charisma and that you could be who you are and who you desired to be?
Um, yeah, I do think that my parents instilled that in me, that that I could do what it is I set myself out to do, and that I accomplish what I want to accomplish, and to believe in myself. And I do believe that a lot of people do grow up in environments where they are in some types of abusive types of relationships with their parents, where they are not um, taught to believe in themselves. They're told what to do. Yeah. And so sometimes people find it hard to like claim their own, and
Mhm.
to become authentic, because they're so busy trying to be what their parents wanted them to be, that they can't be their authentic selves until they're older.
Well,
So
last night, I was watching the news, and Deborah Roberts has a new book that just came out today. It hit the bookstores.
Mhm.
And it's lessons learned from teachers that made a difference. And Oprah Winfrey is in the book. And uh, they showed her last night going
Sounds
back.
like a good book.
She went back to see her teacher from her hometown in Georgia. I had a teacher, Miss Epps, in my school who was my mentor, and I
Uh,
used to go to her home every Wednesday and Thursday. I wrote a show about lessons I learned from Miss Epps, going back to and just
I like
working
that.
with her. And she instilled in me this sense of believing in myself and and because of her, that's her calling now. Um,
Sorry about that.
and she instilled in me this belief that I could to be anybody that I wanted to be. Um, who were the people in your early years beyond your family who told you, Lisa, you can be anybody you want to be. Just go after it.
I had a teacher that was um, very instrumental with me, and and my theatrical teacher too um, was very supportive and telling me that I'm really talented, et cetera, and that I should develop it more. And no, teachers are very, very important.
Yeah,
They
and was there any along the way who didn't support that? Was there ever an opportunity or a moment in your childhood or young adulthood where someone tried to negate your authentic self? And again, as a young person, and I say this for anyone who might be watching, um, that and how you got through it.
yeah, I mean, of course, we all have people that tell us that we're not good or that we're not enough. That um, and when you're young, you believe it,
Mhm.
and so I've had that too. But I worked through it, and I believed in myself. I believed in myself, and I didn't believe, what they said.
Well, it
And,
sounds to me, and again, reading the book and getting to
hmm
know you here, that you have a strong sense of who you are and what you're all about.
hmm
Um, and God bless you for that. And I have to. I'm going to go back to something that I read. Excuse me while I look this up in your book
hmm
as I was reading this because I underlined it this morning.
Okay.
And um, oh, Lisa, how do you manage? And that was the thing, and I thought this was a great thing. Lisa, how do you manage? And you said that's why I wrote the book. You know, so
Exactly.
how do you manage? Keeping it all balanced and everything, and that's why everybody read the book and you'll know how she manages. Um, but going back to this, so many people still, don't know how to make it all happen.
hmm
What advice do you give people besides buy the book?
hmm
Um, beyond buy the book, I hope you're all gonna go out and buy the book today, um, to start out on their own path today. It's a new month, it's a new beginning, uh, to get out and make that first step.
Well, really, you go through what really makes you happy. Think about what really makes you happy. I mean, even like if your work is not making you happy, what makes you happy? Think about what makes you happy, what you enjoy doing. And when you're doing what you really enjoy doing, you're going to be charismatic, and it's just going to flow right through you. People, you're going to be connected to other people because you're excited about what you're doing. So I think it's just really important to be doing what it is you really enjoy doing and not doing things just because somebody else wants you to do it.
Now, because of your focus on this, I
Uh-huh.
have to know, do you watch a lot of television?
I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch it, but not a lot.
Okay. And when you are watching television, are you thinking as you're watching, whether it be the news, whether it be uh, talk shows or anything, whether or not those artists, I like to call them artists, that you're watching have the charismatic factor, the
I
charisma
do.
factor?
I do. I watch people like that. I always think that way. I think, ooh, look at that. Or, look at or you watch like George Clooney walking out. He's like waving at people and doing his thing. And you're like, wow. And then you also see people that are not. and you take cues from that too, especially on the news. You
And
see
it's
different
funny
people
because
that
I was watching the Met Gala last night. Were you watching any of it?
I watched a little of it. You have a
And,
big
yeah,
mix. There's a
but
big mix.
what was
Very
that?
big mix. There's a very big mix at the Met Gala.
But watching it, but that's exactly where I wanted to go with this. But as you're watching this, don't you have a very visceral or knee-jerk reaction to almost every single person you see walk out there? And do you think that's based on the charisma factor?
I think so. I think pretty much it is. But yeah, it's fun to watch people
It's absolutely fun to
exhibiting
watch.
themselves on all these different ways. It's yeah, you can see a lot of different types of charisma, and you can see who has it, who doesn't have it. It's yeah, it's a fun night.
But it's always, it's fun to watch and see where they're coming from and see where they're
Mhm.
going. And as you say in the book, everybody has it, but but they have it in varying degrees.
Mhm.
And
True.
some of them, I mean, and it's very interesting. And this is going to take me into my next question.
Mhm.
A lot of people, when the Kardashians started, rising in fame, a lot of people were turned off by them. But the fact was, they had it.
They
They
do. They do.
they
They have
absolutely
charisma in spades.
they knew how to work it. Um,
Absolutely.
a lot of people, and again, regardless of what side you're on politically,
Hmm.
um, whether you like Trump or not, he's got
Hmm.
it, you know,
He's got charisma. He definitely has charisma.
and and again, no comments, anyone, in one way or the
Right.
other. I'm not taking sides, um, but these are people who walk into a room and they elicit a response, and that's what that's about. I want to ask you, um, the other side, social media. How do you navigate the waters of social media?
Yeah, well, on social media, I mean, you can see who has and doesn't have charisma on social media for sure. You can see that still, even though it's not in person.
Hmm.
But yeah, social media, a lot has changed since that's come out.
Hmm.
A lot has changed. And, people um, connect through their little videos. They connect, and those are always great. And I think I think it's been very helpful.
Do you utilize social media a lot in your own work?
I do, I do, I do, especially for the animals. Um,
Well,
because
let's talk about that because
okay,
that no, I really want to talk about this because you're a vegan,
yeah.
you're an animal activist.
Mhm.
Where did the animal activism begin for you?
When I was growing up in Texas, I had an uncle that had a cattle ranch in Paris, Texas, and um, I would meet the cows, and they all have different personalities, and they look. When I was a kid, they looked different to me. Each one of them looked different to me, and just like a cat or a dog looks different, and they do look different when you get to know them. And I would get to know the cows, and I would give them names, and you'd go back to see them, and I realized that I was told what happened. They were being slaughtered. I mean, violent deaths. So
I grew up on a
right.
farm in South Carolina,
So
and
you understand that.
and I will say this: if anyone, and you may think that I'm making this up, anyone who doesn't know, but it's the truth. And Lisa, I'm sure you're gonna correct, back me up on this. the night before pigs go to slaughter, they are aware of it and they squeal like throughout the night. It's blood curdling, the sounds that these pigs make.
It is.
And there have been studies done on this. It's almost like they have a psychic feeling that this is going to happen to them. So you are absolutely right about that.
Yeah, no, I love all animals, but when I realized what was happening, I I didn't grow up with that disconnect that most people have. A lot of people have that disconnect, and you didn't grow up with that disconnect, it sounds like, either, because a lot of people grow up disconnected. They think meat. They don't think of it as an animal because they just go to the store and it's wrapped in cellophane, or they go to a restaurant, it's already cooked for them. They don't have to go out and kill that animal.
Hmm.
But I want to know exactly where my food is coming from, and I don't want to eat something that had a horrible, horrible existence
And
and
did you become a
and a
vegan?
terrible death
And
because of
at
that.
what point did you become a vegan?
Um, from that time when I realized why the cows were there and why they disappeared, that's when I became a vegan, and I didn't want to have any part of any of that. And you know, I would say my prayers and say my prayers. Sometimes as a child, I'd be forced to eat the meat, and I didn't want to eat it. And then I would pray for that animal. I would pray for that animal's soul. And I would pray for forgiveness for eating it. And you know, even sometimes you can't help but have dairy in something. And then when I have dairy, then I pray for that animal that had to live that horrible life. The the poor mother. I mean, these are mother cows. I mean,
Mhm,
that give dairy. It's meant to be for their kids,
mhm, mhm.
their their babies, not for us. That's the way I see it, anyways.
And how has being an animal activist shaped your life?
It's made a big impact. It has shaped it in a lot of ways because everything that I choose is compassion oriented. I won't wear fur, not real fur, but you don't have to now. Even people that love fur, you there's so many great faux furs. If you have to have fur, there's so great faux furs. There are so many, like, I don't wear leather. I there's so many great faux leathers. I don't want something that somebody had to give their life for, and just everything on a daily basis. My choices are made out of compassion, and like your friend says, in kindness. Kindness is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. With all that you're doing, with all the hats that you wear,
Hmm.
actress, animal activist,
Hmm.
uh, which of the hats do you wear the most comfortably?
I've been an animal activist since I was a child, and at that time I didn't realize what I was doing, but I became that then. So I would say that that's the one that's been around the longest. But I'm but I just love to write, and I love acting too, and I love you know studying another person and becoming that person and learning about them and their traits and their qualities and becoming that for a while. It's really fun. But you're an actor too.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing. It's a fun process. I love that too.
Well, I want to ask you one last question before we wrap everything up.
Okay.
How did COVID affect your life? I mean, obviously, it put a pause on everybody, but did it force you to sit down and write a lot more, or how did it shape your life the last 2 years? What do you feel is the biggest change within yourself because of COVID?
Well, I finished my book during COVID,
Hmm.
and So, and I saw people with masks. So when I wrote my book, when I was finishing up my book, people were wearing masks. And so I had another perspective to write on, But COVID has changed a lot. It's changed a lot. And even today, I broke my wrist like a year ago, and I went to physical therapy today at the hospital, and nobody was wearing masks. Mm-hmm. Yesterday was the last day we had to wear masks there. And the whole room was lit up, physical therapy room. All of a sudden, I see all these smiles in there. It just felt like I was in a different place. I didn't feel like I was in a hospital when I went in there today. But for a long time, it just seems so sterile. And so it makes a big difference.
Well, I'm telling you, as an entertainer, being on stage and looking out and seeing smiles and faces and the whole package, there's nothing like it. I have one last question. Do I have the charisma factor?
Absolutely. Look at you, Richard. Of course you have the charisma factor.
Well, thank you. I am so glad you're here today. Don't go anywhere for a moment, because I want you to have the final word today. But before you go anywhere, I want to thank everyone for being here today. It means the world to me that you all chose to be here for the last hour. And those of you who will see it later, you as well. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here. This book, The Charisma Factor, is incredible. Get it. Call your favorite bookseller and ask for it. And if they don't have it, then go to Amazon.com. I was telling Lisa, I got it, at this locker in Blauvelt, the next town over, because I could get it quicker there than having it delivered to my home. It was worth it. I went out in the rain to get it, and it was just great. So everyone, please, please, please get the book. As you all know, I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Order 2 copies of this book. Keep one for yourself, and then order one for your best friend. Call them up. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let them know how they've made a difference in your life. Tell them how their charisma has made a difference in your life. I have a dear friend. He says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different size boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And with that, I'm going to leave the screen. Lisa, you've got the final word. It could be about anything that we spoke about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final word you want to leave everyone with today. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. Thank you. You've got the charisma factor as well, but you already know that. And it's all yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I just want you to know that you do have charisma, and that you have it just as much, if not even more, than your favorite entertainers that are out there that you look up to. You have it, and you are everything. You have everything you need inside of you. Just go out, find it out what you really, really love to do, and do more of it. Then charisma will flow right through you, and people will just be attracted to you, and your life will just get better. Thank you.